So the problem with this comp is that Anubrak's a really good anti-mage tank, and they don't have a mage. They're gonna have Butcher with Hat and Divine Shield, and then later and Force of Will, and then later on they're gonna have double Butcher. Anubrak literally can't tank this comp. He literally just cannot tank versus this comp. You can see the block adaptation by Thrall. Block's actually a standard talent versus Butcher. Leo was only prioritized in the EU in the one tournament where Sonya was banned because of her bug. We actually haven't seen Leo prioritized in any EU tournament where Sonya was allowed. When he was allowed, or when Sonya was disallowed, he was like in second or third round of picks consistently. Never first, but second or third.
The battle begins in 10 seconds. 5, 4.
But Sonya wrecks Leo. She just melts him.
Well, what are you waiting for?
No. In the pro community, Sonya is considered a hard counter to Leoric. Pre-level 20, a Wrath Sonya will 1v1 Leoric 100% of the time. After Spectral Leech comes on the table, the situation changes pretty dramatically. But Spectral Leech is a really long time to wait. And that's in a 1v1 scenario. In a team fight scenario, the fact that Sonya, with a little bit of help from her team, can not live, or not die and kill Leoric is just a huge advantage. How do you be a frontline if you're dying? Yeah, a good Sonya who just stands there and auto-attacks you and slams you. Yes, Leo beats Sonya in lane, that is true. I was thinking of post-10 with Wrath. Oh god, this game. Alright, so, you guys remember the invisible line, right? There's an invisible line going down the map, you never cross the line unless you have an advantage, yada yada yada. Blue team's like way over the line at the moment. Like Rhaegar past the line, Sidon Ward is almost past the line. Kael'thas is like, I'm not going to go past that line. But Diva Jilly way overextended. That rule is even worse when you're up against a Medivh. Because not only if you cross the line are you dealing with people in front of you, suddenly you're dealing with people behind you. Right? You're flanked on both sides, you're sandwiched, and you're on the wrong side of the map. Worst possible scenario doesn't usually happen in play, because generally speaking, if you see someone going for a flank, you back up. You don't let them flank you. That's not an option with Medivh. Medivh just puts a portal behind you and you're flanked. Oh well. This is going to be a very painful game. So we do see shenanigans happening. Good flame strike from the KT, getting a lot of value, but Rhaegar is absolutely going to go down here. No question in my mind. I would be amazed if he lived. He does not. Oh my god, he actually lives! He actually lives! Oh my god. Wait, that says Rhaegar. Is this guy's name Rhaegar? Or is he a bot? That's actually a bot. The bot lived. Oh my god, the bot lived. Is this the Medivh patch? Is this the Medivh patch? All right, that's fair. That's fair. But you don't want to do that. So that was good. They got 2 picks. Abathur was soaking the top lane that entire time, so it's not like they're going to miss out on experience. They should be able to equalize. In terms of experience, we do see Percival jumping in, forcing, and K1 Pro is now completely out of mana, which makes me think this is in fact the patch where Medivh got introduced, because he's not managing his mana very well, and that was something that was a real problem when Medivh was first introduced into the game. That's been a bot Rhaegar this whole time. Okay. This Rhaegar play has been really good. Rhaegar, we can add Rhaegar to the list of S-tier bots. ETC, Rhaegar, iDream playing Ring Around the Rosie with Avalol on Kael'thas. That's safe. Aggressively invading here. I think aggressively invading when you have Medivh Butcher is fine, because you can't really die to towers. Rhaegar finally ends up going down. Self-preservation not always going to work. K1 Pro spreading Chain Bomb to his teammates. Late Force of Will. Ends up dying anyway. Percival coming in. Force of Will is actually one of the most difficult abilities to time correctly because you want to hit it just as the most damage is incoming, kind of like Tacitar's shield. But in Tacitar's case, at least if you hit it late, they still have a shield and half of it remains. If Force of Will ever gets hit late, it's just a wasted cooldown. You just actually did nothing at all. Butcher gets absolutely erased. The value of block being shown right there, just because he was attacking the marked or branded Thrall to try and get the self-heal going. iDream being active on the map, getting his team's tower very, very quickly. It looks like Zoya trying to interrupt, and that's not going to work. So I have a feeling, I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna make a prediction for this game. Red team YOLOs the entire early game. They just constantly YOLO looking for picks while Abathur soaks. Sometimes they get them, sometimes they don't, but they end up behind. And then somehow in the late game, they win one team fight, cap everything on the map, and eventually the game just ends. That's my prediction. We'll have to see if it works out. Muradin ends up going down, does not remember that he can just take the portal. K1 Pro trying to clear the mid lane, trying to get some of that valuable soak. Rhaegar aggressively goes for the kill. Might actually get it. Does get it with the benefit of Sill's W. Which does do damage over time. I think a lot of people went. More YOLOing in. Actually cancels the charge. Decides, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't YOLO in 4v2 down the talent here. Maybe that's a bad idea. Changes his mind too late. Ends up dying. Going for the chase is Diva Jilly, but Zoya comes in with the stun for the save. And they end up getting the cap. Now up a level and a half, despite the fact that they have an Abathur who's been soaking pretty much the entire game. Thrall in the top lane soaking, and this is kind of where you should be, right? Thrall is the best solo laner on this team by a large margin. Thrall should just be soloing the top lane, and there should be a 4-man rotation going mid bot. It protects you against ganks. It protects you against the nonsense that Butcher, Medivh, Abathur can enable. And we do see Kael'thas and Anub'arak coming back, so hopefully we're going to see that rotation start up. At this point, it's up to blue team to win the game, right? They're ahead. All they have to do is stay ahead in order not to lose. Seems simple. It's not, necessarily, but it's the idea. Artemis Howl is back and dies instantly. Lots of chain bomb spreading by everyone. Nice Force of Will denies the explosion. Really good job there by K1 Pro. And at a little overextended, a little bit in front of his tank, Zoya on top of him is going to be able to maybe get the kill. No, ends up going down, does not get the kill. Good stun by Adel. He does take Energy Royal at level 4, which is why his Gravity Lapse is up so soon. And that ends up being, a couple free kills while Thrall was soaking the top lane, but Abathur was soaking the bot lane that whole time, which means that they were basically trading kills in exchange and trading lanes. Really good positioning by iDream right here. He's just barely in range, but he's completely hidden by the bush. So he's taking caffeine, trying to get the soak here, but this lane is so pushed in that he can't really go any deeper. It's not safe for him to go much deeper. He does have a hat, which means he can sort of win the 1v1, especially with June coming up for the reinforce. He does get the stun off. He does have a heal, nice follow-up stun from June, and side ward. 100% going to go down here from the last few, and does end up getting the pick there. As soon as Kael'thas, so here's a really high level thing. Here's a really high level thing. As soon as you miss a CC, you've lost the fight, you need to back up. If you miss a skill shot that is a crowd control skill shot, if you miss Gravity Lapse, if you miss Impale, if you miss Stormbolt, if you miss Arthas' Root, unless it's a full 5-on-5 team fight, if it's some sort of skirmish, you've lost that skirmish, you need to back up. You need to back up and wait for your thing to be off cooldown. If you miss Thrall's Root, you need to back up and wait for it to be off cooldown. It's not that you can't win the fight, it's that the odds of you winning the fight are no longer in your favor because you don't have CC. And generally speaking, when you're talking about picks, CC is the most important thing in wins fights. So that was a 2v2 because they saw June rotate up. As soon as the Gravity Lapse missed on the Butcher, Adel and Sideward should have both backed off. They knew they had Percival coming up for the reinforce, which means that if King Caffeine and June continued to chase into the towers, Percival could have gotten there and then they could have turned. But if you miss a skill shot, you back up. Sometimes even in team fights, this is true. If you see someone on your team miss a skill shot, you're just like, oh, well, we're going to need to back up and re-engage because that didn't work out. Staying in and continuing to brawl is an invitation to the other team to take that small advantage and turn it into a bigger advantage. Because if you've missed a skill shot, they technically have a small advantage. So nice poke on Zoya interrupting here, and at this point, they're starting to catch up in experience. They're starting to catch up in experience because they've been soaking better. You know, they've been pressuring, but they haven't necessarily been overextending anymore. And they still have an Abathur. Abathur's always really, really good for soak. Again, we see iDream perfectly positioned to get the soak. This is almost max range for soak. Not quite max range, but almost. And at this point, this is a single altar. They could actually delay this and get really far ahead, but they opt to go in really deep. Let's see how it goes for them. I will say that fighting into a choke versus a Kael'thas is usually pretty risky, but the Kael'thas was a little bit overextended. And so the Butcher managed to get on top of him almost instantly. Oh, look at that. He died. So the reason the Kael'thas was so far forward was because he wanted to get the poke. By channeling on this side of the altar, not over the line, Kael'thas had to come really far forward to get the poke. As soon as he was that far over, Butcher charged in and just killed him. The only thing that's really going to save you at that point is your support having some sort of burst heal, which doesn't happen yet because not 10, or the tank peeling for you. But Percival was out of position, and because Percival can't live through the damage, the kind of damage this team puts out, he actually went in, tried to help with the body block, and died as well. So you can't play a Nubrak versus a comp that doesn't have a mage, because he will just melt. He's actually not a tank in this comp. And we do see the CC chain coming out here on side and ward. And at this point, they're just following up. They're just chaining the kills together, and no one's leaving. Artemis Howl shouldn't have tried to make that save there. It's always tempting as a support to try and save your team, but you know she was here. She could have easily just left, and she came down and tried to make the save. You just need to leave. There comes a point where if people on your team are out of position and dying, or getting collapsed on and dying, there's nothing you can do about it. You just need to let them die. I actually had a funny experience once in Hurley where a Leoric was like, "You shouldn't have backed. You should have kept up." I'm like, "Nope. He was overextended. You just need to let him die so we can push with the Immortal." This was on BOE. We just won the Immortal. He was like, "Man, that's cold. I can't believe you do that to your teammates." And I was like, "I can't believe that you wouldn't do that to your teammates because I think we're all on the same team here and we all want to win." He was like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." It's like, I made the best decision that would help us win, not the best decision that would help my teammates position and get better. So now they're doing the same thing they were doing in the early game, but K1 Pro is getting better at Medivh, like literally before our eyes. And they're actually getting these picks now because their coordination's getting a little bit better. This is the thing about comps like this. Their pick comps are high execution. And oftentimes they require a lot of practice, and maybe this team hadn't practiced together, so they were syncing up their calls. And we can actually see Red Team getting better, like literally right before our eyes. Like that pick in the top lane, the CC chain was perfect. That pick on side and ward here in the bottom, the CC chain was perfect. It wasn't perfect at the start of the fight. Started the game. They actually had some overlap. The portals have been a lot better. People have actually been taking the portals that that secured the key kill right here because of the portal from this pick to this pick. And this is what really high level players will do. They might, if they're not used to playing together, it'll take them a little while to get in sync and decide, how they want to order their CCs, who wants to initiate the fight, what's a really good chain. Going over the wall as Zoya, but has the portal to get back out. For the record, if reabsorption is taken at level 16, Medivh is one of the best counters to Kael'thas, because you can just put your Force of Will on whoever's getting chain bombed, and it will actually heal them for a ton and deny a lot of his damage. iDream playing fast and loose with portals. They don't manage to get the other pick, but they do manage to negate a lot of the damage and get out. And they have the heroics, Leyline Seal, Clone, of course, Land of the Slaughter, Haymaker. and Divine Shield. I actually recommend Haymaker on this map, specifically in my Meridian guide, and it actually is really good on this map, but every time I see someone take it, I'm just like, how much value is that really going to get? So this is even. This is an even talent tier fight. Both teams have everyone alive. We do see Cocoon was picked up by a new bracket. That's basically going to give him more peel, which is good, but I do think Locust Swarm would have been a better choice here. Just because he needs the sustain, because he's melting. But we'll see how it ends up working out. There is a lot of melee, so Locust Swarm would have gotten a lot of value. I mean, there's basically 5 melee on the team. Medivh is kind of a range, but he's been forward a lot to get value portals. And Abathur, you know, technically is not there, but he's cloning a melee hero. And at this point, this is just a zoning charge, right? They just want to let June channel for free. June actually comes up to help because he's like, I don't want my team to die. And bot does get captured because of the distraction. That was actually really good by blue team. So Diva Jilly and Sidewar basically came in top here as a distraction. They're like, we're going to poke you, we're going to poke you. And King Caffeine was like, no, you're not. I'm charging you. And meanwhile, bot lane, we had a free capture. You know, Abathur rotating down here to make sure he gets that middle soak, that aggressive middle soak. Leyline Seal isolates the fight. We see Sunder going down, but silence happens as well. Portal shenanigans are a little bit there. Not quite as much there as I would like them to be. We do finally see some portal shenanigans. June manages to get out that huge damage. Zoya. We see a clone of Medivh. I can't have been intentional. Oh my god, the portals. So many portals. A missed Lamb, but Divine Shield comes down. Meridian gets erased, but so much value on the Butcher here. The Butcher's so hard to kill with that Abathur hat, with the Force of Wills, with the Uther Heals. We do see... So this is interesting. Okay, so this fight was insane. This fight was insane. One of the reasons that I recommend having a tank engage for you is not just because it's safer and better play. It's because it allows you to break fights down into chunks that are more easily kept track of. If you're a support, you're not getting flanked by the enemy team because you have a bruiser who's responsible for dealing with flanks, and you have a tank who's responsible for engaging. As a support, you only need to focus on 2 people. You only need to focus on your frontliners, right? If you're a tank and you're engaging for your team, you only need to focus on making sure that they don't get past you. You don't have to focus on worrying about flanks. If you're a bruiser, you only have to focus on melting the front line, counter-initiating against flankers. If you're a range damage and your tank and your bruiser and your support are doing all those things, all you have to focus on is damage. You wait till someone's out of position, you're just like, boom, damage. If you're an auto attack hero, you usually focus on the tank because it's the only person you can focus on safely, or the bruiser, same thing, it's the only person you can focus on safely. It's easy chunking. This fight was just everywhere. So, you know, we had Anubrak started out here with the Rhaegar and the Thrall. So we had the tank, the bruiser, and the support. And then we had both of the range damage up here, which is awkward. Somehow both of the range damage ended up over here. I think they actually literally walked around at one point. And they ended up getting the kill on the Muradin, who was not in the front line, who was like, the Butcher was past the tank, and he was over here, and then the tank was here, and the Divine Shield went down here on the Butcher, and he was very focused on... Everyone's focused on keeping Butcher alive, so the tank was on his own, so Muradin just died. I think part of that was the fact that Muradin took Haymaker. A lot of people will... Thrall was on top too? Okay, so KT was bot, Thrall was top. That's fair. But it's like, the fight was everywhere. The fight was just everywhere. I also think June didn't expect Muradin to die because he didn't realize he took Haymaker. I imagine the conversation on comms was like, why didn't you pop Avatar? And he was like, I took Haymaker. I'm like, oh. King Caffeine going for the re-engage. Has no mana, has Force of Will though, so gets a heal off of his friggin' brand. Does manage to live through the extravagance. He has to tap before he can re-engage. iDream came down for the soak, ended up getting caught and dies. Oh, Artemis Howl with the B-step. Percival gonna get absolutely melted here. But Cocoon comes down just in time, but K1 Pro somehow in the back line, ready to intercept the charge and literally auto-attack Kate Anub'arak to death. So that's a thing. Charge should be up again in a moment, but it doesn't matter. Kael'thas ends up going down. Side ward, like, what? Why are you there? I guess he was coming back in, hoping for the fight. Does end up going. No, gets. He's fine. He's fine. Sunders for the counter initiate, but then doesn't follow up. I'm not sure about that decision. The point I'm making here is that if everyone does their role in a fight, fights are easier to understand and digest and pay attention to. If everyone is everywhere all the time and damage is all spread out, the team that's going to win is the team that has the better mechanics. And obviously, this is essentially 5 like pro players versus 5 people who are not pro players. So if you're ever up against a team that you know is better than you, your strategy in team fights has to be really crisp because you're not going to win mechanically. And that's something that doesn't get assessed as much. People are like, it's all about the heroes. Well, those heroes are played by people. So if the people playing those heroes are better at their heroes than you are at yours, there has to be some other factor, some other edge you're going to take that's going to allow you to win. Be that drafting, be it shot calling, be it the overall map strategy, understanding the map better than your opponent does, whatever. And obviously very good pro teams are good in all of those categories, so it becomes very difficult to beat them. One of the reasons that MVP Black had like a 43-game win streak in professional play was because they were the best drafters by a huge margin. It took everyone a long time to catch up to their level of drafting.
Hero slain.
Take a drink of water, look up and see that. I agree. Fuck K1, man. I would not want to play against K1. Yeah. Yep. I'm glad someone else noticed it. RKT player has been too far forward. This is one of the dangers of taking Energy Royal, or was one of the dangers of taking Energy Royal, because the stun doesn't have a very long range, you really want to be up close to make sure you can land it. One of the reasons that the range is preferred at most levels of play, or most high levels of play, is because it allows you to stand further back and still get the follow-up. If you have a triple front line, then you can take Royal, but if you're up against a hero like Butcher, where you really want to be as far away from him as possible at all times, you actually need to take the range. And that's just a general rule. If you're a fragile hero up against not fragile heroes who can dive you and kill you, you want things that increase your range. Part of the chaos of these fights is due to the portals, and Medivh was relatively new at the time, so I understand why these fights are so like awkward for both teams. But it's still really, really rough. We do see a stasis on the Anub'arak. I actually think they could have focused that Anub'arak. Butcher was coming in. Yeah, they could have gotten there in time to focus the Anub'arak. They could have gotten the clone. But it looks like iDream is literally just cloning Medivh for practice. Looks like they have a deal. K1 Pro plays Medivh, and iDream gets to clone him for the practice. We do see Divine Shield Butcher across the wall. They do get a web wrap here. I don't know. Oh, it's Uther. Uther's in the web wrap. But that doesn't matter because they have double Medivh, making Butcher immortal. Staggering the force of wills. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. So, underneath their towers, while going through a wall, they traded 2 for 2. That's actually a win for them, by the way, because Abathur is still soaking.
The time is now. In my name.
Oh man, I haven't talked to Artemis Hallow very much. But every time I've talked to her, she's been a really pleasant person to talk to, and she's been hilarious. Apparently that's just a trend. It's just how she is as a person. Murloc Genius is a lucky team to have her as a coach. Alright. Her manager? I actually don't know exactly what her role is. I know she's like in charge of the team, but I don't know what that entails. Because sometimes you have people who are in charge of the team and they're the coach, and sometimes you have people in charge of the team and they just manage the team. It's like a personal thing. They aren't necessarily analysts or help the players work on specific things. There's some variation. Again, with the Cocoon, essentially for disengage. I'm not sure why Owl keeps flame striking the Cocoon. Like, Cocoon lasts 8 seconds. If you flame strike it immediately, nothing's going to happen. I think that this is just... Yeah. Artemis is the manager? Alright, that's what I thought. I heard the Haymaker, but I didn't see the Haymaker. And once again, just going so deep. I feel like they're just trying to figure out how much the bullshit they can get away with. I think that's it. They're just testing. It's like, okay, if we have Butcher plus Medivh plus Clone Medivh plus Uther, how much damage can we put out on people? Yeah, June is wrecking it this game, but June's a really good support. June's one of the best support players I've ever seen, honestly, looking at his games from last weekend. And it's actually really cool to be able to watch the game. I might go back and watch this replay again later if I can look at his camera. I'm not doing as much analysis this game because A, this game is crazy, and B, this game is fun. If you guys have any specific questions about about the nonsense that's going on, just let me know. Question from chat: why is Artemis such a controversial figure? Like, I've never heard anything particularly bad about her, but a lot of people seem to dislike her quite a bit. I don't know, honestly. I didn't know she was a controversial figure. I don't keep track of drama. I usually keep track of talent builds, fights, and team results. That's it. If someone switches rosters, I'll pay attention to the roster swap, but I don't usually even know why they swap rosters. Like, I know that Wubby left Dignitas, or got removed from Dignitas because he expressed an attitude that he was okay with being the best team in Europe and didn't want to be the best team in the world. And Bakery was like, no, I want to be one of the best teams in the world. Even if we can't do it, I want to try. I want to put in that level of effort, do everything we can to try and make it happen. And Wubby was like, I don't really want to do that. They were like, okay. And then they found someone else who wanted to do that. It was Alex the Progi, who I have an enormous amount of respect for. Alex the Progi, personally, one of my favorite players. I think he's the best non-Asian Arthas in the world. I actually talked to him a lot when writing my Arthas guide. I have a huge amount of respect for Alex the Progi, and I understand why they picked him up. But unless it's something like that, like, it's a matter of everyone being on the same page in terms of team synergy. I don't know much about team dramas. If I see a post that's like detailing team drama, I'll read the part of it that tells me what changed as a result, and I'll skip the drama. I just don't care. Huge. Oh my god. Oh my god, the Ancestral Sidemord might actually live. So here's a fun note about Thrall Sunder. Sunder is used a lot as an initiation tool from the front line. It should almost never be used. I'm not going to say never. It should almost never be used. Sunder is really good at three things. It's good at securing picks. If you're just like trying to chase someone and they're really close to their gate, not only does Sunder knock them away from their gate, it gives you that stun, gives you time to catch up, it gives your team time to get their CC abilities off cooldown, secure the pick. Sunder is really good at securing picks, which can matter. If you're playing a Thrall and you're playing a Thrall composition, a lot of times Thrall is your solo laner, you start rotating the objective. When you're rotating the objective, one of the things your team should try and do is actually secure a pick using Sunder before the objective starts, before anything ever happens. If you see someone overextended in lane or even in the middle of the lane and they're relatively safe, you can get a pick with Sunder. And once you've get that pick, the objective starts out 5v4. In a lot of cases, that's enough to just outright win the objective. So Sunder should be used for picks. Sunder can be used for counter initiation. That means that the enemy team is already on top of your team. They tend to group up to try and get that pick. They try and focus a target, especially versus heavy melee teams. It's really common. It's not necessarily a good behavior, as we've talked about, but it's something that happens a lot. So, Sunder is used for counter initiation. And I would think Sunder is actually one of the best counter initiation heroics in the entire game. And if you are against a really heavy dive comp, that's one of the best reasons to draft Thrall, because it allows that to happen. Also, Sunder's really good at splitting teams if you come in from a flank, right? Because splitting a team from the front line, maybe you still have to walk through the front line. Maybe the person who gets the most out of position is a rather durable front liner. You don't want to do that. But if you come in from the flank, and their front line's here and their back line's here, and you Sunder, and then suddenly their back line can't be peeled for because their front line's way, way, way far away and CC'd, you can get a pick on the back line. Those are the three things that Sunder should be used for 99% of the time. Sundering as an engage from the front line, which is what we saw happen there, which is why Sunder was on cooldown, is usually a really bad idea. Yeah, MVP Black wins a lot of 4v5s. That's MVP Black. That comes down to better mechanics and outplay potential. But we're not assuming. I mean, you can't assume that the other team's always going to outplay you. You gotta play in a way that you're likely to win, right? Similarly, it's oftentimes a mistake to assume that you can always outplay. I have seen professional teams. I've seen replays from professional teams in Team League. They just got crushed because they drafted like goofy heroes. They drafted for fun. They didn't draft tanks. They drafted for massive wombo combos, like with VP Grav Bomb, and they didn't make it work, and they just lost. They were having. I assume they were having fun the whole time, but you can't assume you're always going to outplay your opponents, and you can't assume your opponents are always going to outplay you. You gotta play to the strengths of your comp, the strengths of your hero, and if that's not enough to win, if the enemy team is just that much better mechanically, then you were going to lose no matter what. But that doesn't mean you don't try your best. Make good decisions. So we have another fight where everyone's actually alive, although Zoya is extremely low. It looks like he's going to end up trading for the Thrall. Leyline Seal comes in, isolates the KT. KT is now going to die 100%. There's no way he gets out of that. Percival, again, cannot really... It's not even Percival. Anubrak can't tank versus this comp. He's not a tank. So they essentially don't have a tank in 99% of the time. When he has Cocoon up, maybe he can do a little bit of peeling. But other than that, he's like, he literally can't tank. iDream secured their altar, and now he's going to burrow bot for that soak to start keep pushing that lane. Everyone else is going to portal over the wall to get potentially a free fort. Ends up not happening. Butcher portals back in, starts to charge Percival, cancels it, says, nah, it's not a good idea, I don't need mana. Backs for mana. And this is a lull. Every time, a lot of lulls happen in games where like a team wins or loses a fight, and then everyone has to back for mana or death timers are running, and there's just really not much going on. We're in one of those, but it looks like red team's going to try and re-engage here, try and get the pick. And again, a little bit of awkwardness. Rhaegar shouldn't really be the person solo soaking. You never want your support to be solo soaking unless you're running a double support comp and you don't have a choice. Like Tassadar is a good example, often solo support. But you also need to make sure you're soaking all the lanes all the time versus an Abathur, because you're going to fall behind in experience if you don't. The only way you don't fall behind in experience is if you get picks, but obviously they didn't really draft to get picks, right? They sort of drafted to win the lanes. So you always got to follow, I'm going to harp on this a lot, you always got to follow the strategy that your comp can actually execute to win. And because, because Rhaegar was soaking the solo lane, they knew as soon as they started pressuring mid, the Rhaegar would rotate down to be with her team, and they ended up getting the pick on the transition. And now they're just pressuring. Now they're just posturing. They're like, oh. I dream. I dream why? So Abathur burrowed in there and just died. I think he was trying to take the portal to like get a slap off and then use the portal to get back out, but instead he just died. Cocoon comes down for the Butcher Peel, but they get a lot of poke on. Nice Phoenix for the zoning. It ends up being a 1-for-1 because iDream had to slap someone. First of all, again, not a tank. Ancestral comes down in time, though. Does manage to barely lose him. Surprised Urticating Spines was taken. This is one of the things I mentioned in my Anubrak guide. If you ever go Urticating Spines, you should always go Chitinous Blading to pair with it. You should never take one without the other. The talents just work so well together, it doesn't make sense to take one without the other. I like that Exoskeleton in 7, I just don't think you should take Urticating Spines with it. So portals happen, Butcher manages to get a little bit overextended and they get the pick. iDream does get the channel, nicely done. He does have clone available, so he could clone K1 Pro to get his team out of there, because he would have the double V portal. That's exactly what he does. Looks like they didn't need the portal, instead he gets to use it aggressively. And they're just trying to be annoying as possible. Clone is going to go down. It doesn't really matter. And everyone has to back for mana. So the blue team making a comeback a little bit, manages to win that altar phase. It is 16-16, and they're tied on. Red's a little bit ahead on experience. Those plays are White Denial once iDream back. Yeah. And the wanting to slap someone as Abathur through the portal is why iDream took a break from HOTS. And is not looking so good at Worlds. And not even at Worlds. No, at Worlds, Spring Worlds. His Chen play on Sky on Dragonshire. So, Red Team has opted to be a little bit more passive. They're just getting camps. We see Zoya coming in for the deny here. K1 Pro also helping poke. And with Portal, they're basically 100% safe here. They do have the stasis effect for the deny. Forces them back. We see the clone happening. I'm not sure why we see the clone happening. Sylvanas is just going to soul this camp real quick, which evens out the pressure in the lane. So these won't necessarily get any value. That's exactly the play I was thinking of, Blurfu. That's exactly the play I was thinking of. You see Chain coming down again. Side Nord ends up going down again. So sad. And this is the problem with Anubrak. Anubrak is playing so passive because he's getting melted at the start of every engage. But you still need someone to stand in the front line. Alright, so Percival's kind of hoping that he can burrow charge in and get the cooldown reduction and save. But as soon as Lambda Slaughter happens and doesn't get cleansed and they end up losing Thrall, now they like literally don't have a front line. Because Percival's not a front line. Anubrak just can't do the job under these circumstances. You see iDream in the bot lane. Artemis Howl's going to come down. Artemis Howl, Rhaegar can actually kill a Abathur with Lightning Shield and Slow Totem. And that is exactly what happens. Ariel's fun. Ariel's actually one of the most fun heroes that have, I think have been released in a while. I really like playing her. So that's a little bit of an advantage. It's now 12-8. It was 16-16. They ended up getting one kill on the Abathur basically for free, but it was by their support, and the support not being with the team ended up costing them, 2 lost kills. I won't say the Thrall doesn't count because that was just never going to be. There was no saving that Thrall, given the positioning that they ended up in. But I think the Kel'Thas and the Sylvanas could have been saved. Yeah. Just you can't chase this team. This team is a hard engage team. Falstad would have been really good here. Falstad to deny the engages would have been like the best possible pick for them. According to chat, it was not banned out. So I'm surprised to see like the Falstad not picked in place of the Sylvanas at least. But it's possible no one played Falstad. And at this point, so red team's winning, but they don't have any siege. They can't like push in on the towers and just win the map that way. They have to keep getting picks in order to win the game. They can DPS boss down really quickly. They can do camps really quickly, but they can't just go kill buildings. So every time they kill a building, the enemy comes back to life, they have to let that building go. Which means invisibility. But it means that there's a real possibility that they could win the game here if they just waited and won the altar phasers and kept the lanes pressured. But instead we're going to have an invisible butcher just literally go in 1v5. Decides to back out. I think that was the correct decision. Oh my god. Another invisibility. Both frontliners invisible. So much dive. Nice bolt from Divagillia there. Instant bolt. Instant bolt. Like not even hesitating. iDream, thinking about aggressively capping is going to back off and not aggressively cap. So this is the game, right? If both of these altars go over to the red team, they win. If only one of them goes over, they're still fine. Still fine. I was going to criticize that, but the tank ended up being there, and it ended up being okay. It's fine. So, portal into the backline, this is so annoying, because now they have the ability to poke endlessly. Not only that, but they can have two people here because the Abathur clone is going to come down momentarily, now that Abathur has capped the altar. But Medivh actually gets instantly focused. They web wrap the Butcher, which means all of their damage is gone. All of their damage is gone. All they have to do is not die. So the tank was here. The incredibly fragile Sylvanas was here. So that's awkward. Divine Shield comes down. Silence on Artemis Howl from the chain. June is going to die here, but June actually wants to die here. He wants to have that increased healing because he's already blown all his cooldowns. Plus, he will come back to life. Butcher ends up going down. The Butcher clone ends up going down. No, that was the real Butcher. The clone's alive. And that's game. Yeah. Miss Ancestral, but the Sylvanas was too far forward. A little bit of an irony here. The Sylvanas just like, KT, stop overextending. And in the end, in the last fight where it mattered the most in some sense, Sylvanas was the most overextended hero. If that Ancestral had hit the Sylvanas, they would have been fine, I think. Is that true? Did June only die that one time? Yeah, June only died that one time. But all levels of play, you just can't be in front of the tank. Can't be in front.